the self-help and business community has put you into a certain delusion of the mind. And I'll explain exactly what I mean in a moment. Think about all the last books that you read, all the last networking events that you've attended, all the last coaches and mentors that you've gotten, all the last movies that you watched, people that you've interacted with, all the last YouTube videos on motivation, business, skill building, networking, communication, self-development that you watched. Think about all of that breadth of knowledge. Now I want you to do a little bit of an audit here. Get out a pen, get out a notebook, and actually write down all the last books that you can remember, the people you can remember, the videos you can remember, everything I just listed. Actually write it all out. Now what I want you to do is to actually tell me from all of those books, from all of those videos, from all of those people that you've interacted with at different networking events, how many of those interactions or how many of those pieces of content, how many of those books have actually translated into results in your life? Chances are it's a very low number. Chances are it's a goose egg. It's probably 0. So what I'm here to tell you is that we have been put into this conditioning, even within the self-development and business community. These communities are outside of the mainstream conditioning, but they have their own subset of conditioning. And that conditioning is also insidious because you've stepped away from procrastination, but you stepped into productive procrastination. You stepped into breadth of knowledge rather than depth of knowledge. How were the real masters of the past getting their information and mastering skills? They were doing it by taking an apprenticeship approach. They would have a master that they would do an apprenticeship under. Now we go to college and we learn, there's a Harry Potter class, there's an art class, there's a music class, there's a gen ed class, all kinds of gen eds. You're being conditioned to breadth of knowledge. You go into you go into a networking event. You network with everybody. You start a bunch of WhatsApp threads with everybody. But how many of those relationships actually further into a tangible result for your life or for your business? It doesn't have to just be business. It doesn't have to just be about money. Maybe your health, relationships, other areas of your life. But how many of those relationships has actually translated into a tangible result? Probably 0. So what we're getting stuck in is productive procrastination. What we're getting stuck in is just a dopamine spike of feeling like we're getting ahead by getting that new piece of content, that new bit of advice, that new course, that new mentorship, that new person we're going to network with. We're going to throw them into a WhatsApp thread, but it doesn't amount to anything. So how do we make these things amount to something? You have to think about life in this modern age as we're being slowly baby stepped towards breadth, and you have to prioritize depth at all costs, which means this: even within those outside the box people that you're going to surround yourself with, you have to take an approach of the essentialist. You have to decide that this information, this vital few bits of information, are far more superior than all the other information I'm getting, and go deep on those vital bits of information. Meaning this: it's much better to take 2 or 3 years to pursue that high-level mentor that you want, and then go deep with them, and then have that leverage you to a high position in life, rather than go out and get 10,000 different coaches on things. All right? The 10,000 different coaches on things, breadth. That one mentor that you spent 2 years to get, and that's at a very high level, and you came up with a concrete strategy on getting them, that's depth. It's much better to take one book that is of a 10 out of 10 value, not the latest New York Times bestseller, not the latest self-help book, not the latest business book, not the latest marketing book, but take that one book that's a 10 out of 10 book, like The Narrow Road by Felix Dennis, for a business book as an example. And you take that book that's been written by someone who's been there and done that, given hard strategy, and you actually go deep on it for a year. And you're not just trying to check off the next book off the list. You go deep on one book for a year. How many people can actually go deep on one book for a year and actually take the advice in that book and get a result out of it? Very few. It's more likely that you have 10,000 books written on a list, and you're just trying to check off the next one and check off the next one and check off the next one, because you're addicted to it like a meth head is addicted to a drug. All right? You just want the next bit of novelty. Be okay with foregoing the novelty, coming up with a concrete strategy on what you're going to do with that information to get depth out of it. That is far more important than the breath. Now, everything in society is gonna keep, like a frog in boiling water, gonna keep baby stepping you away from depth. As I said before, even the outside the box people now are addicted to studying 10,000 different things. Now, the counter argument to everything I'm saying here is this. When you're new in entrepreneurship, when you're new to getting results, when you're younger in life, then you can prioritize breadth, because you just need to experiment. You simply need to experiment, because you need to go experiment with a bunch of different books, a bunch of different topics, a bunch of different coaches, so that you can form a clear vision, and then you can prioritize depth of knowledge so that you can best build the skill sets and results that will be in alignment with that vision. But it starts with breadth when you're younger. But later on, don't just keep going breadth, all right? Prioritize depth. Now, the other counter argument is that occasionally it can be good to just study things that are outside of your main focus on the main focus of your craft. Why? Because you're taking a more interdisciplinary approach. You're taking a more holistic thinking approach. You studying nature when you're a businessman, or psychology when you're a businessman or businesswoman, you can draw insights from that to make you better at what you do. So there is a strategic place for breadth, but it should not be the default. The default should be choose the vital few that will actually produce results and go deep on it. Don't just keep pursuing the next video, the next coach, the next course. Actually audit your life, and you'll notice that you haven't produced the results that you want. It's because you haven't prioritized depth. I guarantee that is the reason. So focus is of the utmost priority. Distinguishing the vital few from the trivial many. Having your brain be a perpetual filter for the gold nuggets in life. Completely take the gold nugget, filter out the rest. Take the gold nugget, filter out the rest. You have to be someone who has the discernment to do that, and you build that by drilling in the Pareto principle into your mind. Pareto principle meaning 20% of actions produce 80% of the results. It's always, but you have to even go further than that. Think about the 1% of actions that produces the 99% of results. That's how focused you must be. And when you take that approach, you will notice that there will be a separation from you and everybody else around you who is lost in the sauce, lost in the laundry machine, being tossed and turned around by the next stimulus, the next book, the next novelty, the next coach. They're unable to actually build skills. They're unable to actually produce money. They're unable to actually produce results. And if they've audited their past, they've noticed that they haven't produced the results that they want. But if you go deep, I guarantee that you will. These accomplishments that you want can be simple. They can be a lot easier than you think. You stick to the fundamentals, you study the high leverage information, you get the right people around you, you set a clear vision, you know exactly the ROI you're getting from, and then you just take a shitload of action towards it. You course correct as time goes on, and then you're gonna get it. It's as simple as that. So that's the message of this video. Go deep, distinguish the vital few from the trivial many. Only some things are important. Go deep on that till it actually produces a result. Don't get lost in the conditioning of being perpetually told that you have to get the next thing. Attending 10, as I said before, attending 10,000 networking events will do nothing for your life, because it's the blind leading the blind. Getting one high-level person who's been there and done that will leverage your life up to such a high place you can't even believe it. Reading one book and actually taking action on that book is way better than reading 100 books and just filling your brain up with knowledge, giving you cognitive dissonance. All right, it's always better to do that. And this all starts with having a clarity of vision, so you know exactly what items to go deep on, people to go deep on, books to go deep on. So that's the message of this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.